So, as an onlooker to the hysteria, I'm not sure what to think. I mean, we had just gotten over the Russians are coming when I was coming of age in school and paying attention to what, grown-ups talk about because I was keenly interested in anything my dad was interested in and his cronies when they were speaking. I have no idea what to think of today. I really don't. Not sure why the Russians are suddenly the boogeyman. I'm not saying that the Russians are like, Little Miss Nancy Sunshine estate. I mean, what they did in the Ukraine, sucked. But then again, that's partially our fault. Our fault is in the Western Unions, NATO, the European Union. We promised Ukraine that we'd look after them. If we had put our foot down before it got serious, it could have gotten into a negotiation stage. I mean, they've always allowed for these countries to split up before, so I'm sure they would have, sweet-talked into letting Russia have that base back and that small pocket of Russian-speaking, Russian patriotic-type people. Everybody's like, well, you can't trust the Russians or be with the Russians or whatever, especially my Polish boyfriend, but it's like, but had we had a relationship with the Russians, like, for the past 4 or 5 years, we might have had a say. You can't tell a stranger or an enemy, don't do that. But if someone is your friend or at least your acquaintance, you can say, please don't do that, or, can't we do something different, or, you can put that pressure on them. As it stands, nobody can put any pressure on Russia. Russia's a superpower. Even though their economy totally collapsed, they still have nukes. Even with the tatters of what's left, they still have enough to really cause some big problems, especially there in Europe. So, does it hurt to be nice? We're the ones that let the whole place go to communism in the first place. We gave them a golden key. Warsaw Pact. Here, take these other small northern European nations that we don't care about while you're at it. It doesn't matter that they fought with us in the war. Just take them. Yeah. So now Russia's the boogeyman. I'm sure that they're laughing their asses off. Were they tapping into stuff? Yeah, probably. Just like we tap into everybody's stuff. I'm sure they had some kind of surveillance or some hacking going on. Were they trying to change our elections? I really doubt it. I don't even think they were trying to seed chaos. I really don't think they were trying to do anything. I think all of this was, just smoke and mirrors to hide the fact of Hillary's email problems, which would have been the reasons the Russians would be able to get in the first place, because they were using private servers. And, crap like that. I can't deal with it, no. I'm sorry, I can't get into this big panic over Russia. Caution, yes. Because I certainly don't want to live in Russia. It's still not very democratic. But, brutal measures for brutal times. It's not like they had exactly, the fun times going for them anyway. And why on earth are we going to be all PO'd about being friends with Russia if we opened up with Cuba? Cuba hasn't changed. They're still horrid, murderous rascals that, stamp down the people that don't agree with them. Yes, there's Cubans that say, I like my life and things went better. And I'm sure that's true. I'm sure there's a portion of the population that did benefit from Castro's regime. They were people that were under the radar and not important enough to really go after. But political opponents, people that wanted anything different, it was pretty brutal. If they didn't escape, they were killed. That's just all there is to it. China. China is a bigger threat to us than Russia is. Heck, North Korea is a bigger threat than Russia is. Those people are crazy. So, or the Middle East. So all of this fought for all over this Russia stuff. It's like, I'm pretty sure that if they found all the transcripts they could and they release them to the public, it'll have stuff we don't want to see, and it'll have stuff that'll piss off Russia. But I doubt there's anything there saying, yes, we have almost spoiled it for the Hillary, so we shall be having our comrade Trump in the office very soon. Very soon. No. They're not going to find that conversation anyway. He's an ambassador. He talked to all kinds of people. I'm sure if they do an absolute full investigation of everybody this guy talked to, Kurzbinski or whatever, he'll probably have talked to more than 2/3 of the Senate and representatives in their different positions in Washington. Both sides of the aisle. It's become such a big hand-wringing thing. Of course, it didn't help that they're like, we didn't talk to Russia. But it's a danged if you do, danged if you don't kind of thing. If they said, yes, we talked to Russia, then it's still going to be a dog and pony show that they're going to keep the ringmaster cracking that whip and delaying all the nominees, delaying the policies that Trump wants to put forward. So, I can see when you're put on the spot and it's not really a proper place to answer the question at all, or you don't have enough facts on the question, or you personally, you talk to the guy but you're not sure when, then you say no. Because they didn't ask you, have you ever talked to a Russian? They were asking, were you talking about the candidacy, in the campaign? So they said no. I mean, I'm sure the word campaign probably came up. I'm sure that they said, well, what do you think is going to happen if Trump is there? But most of these people didn't even know if they were going to be in his office or not. He only had a few people that he had pre-picked way ahead of time. And I don't think Flynn was one of them. And Flynn lied to Vice President Pence, so boo. I mean, I can see Pence getting upset because Pence has a pretty stellar record. It doesn't matter if you like him or not because of his stance on abortion or his, Christian values or anything like that. As far as his political history, he's pretty clean. His tighty-whities don't got no stains on them. You can say you don't like the brand of underwear he has, but you can't say they're dirty underwear. He's a politician that has pretty much stayed close to the cuff, boring and milquetoast, because he hasn't gotten into anything and he hasn't been strongly out in the open on very many things except for abortion. Which, of course, drives the left wild. And that's the other thing. If they actually got what they want, okay, let's say they actually made a big enough fuss that Trump does a Nixon-esque kind of thing for the good of the policies that he's trying to put forward. He steps away from the plate and leaves his guys in charge. And the vice president. Do they really want Vice President Pence to be President Pence? If they're terrified that Trump is after Roe versus Wade, what on earth will President Pence do? Not to mention, do they want martial law? If it gets dangerous enough and they cause enough problem to us normal folk that want to safely cross a freaking street without getting hit by a Molotov cocktail bottle, especially if you just happen to have a red hat that day, it's for the Phillies, for God's sake. I didn't even vote for Trump, What do they think's going to happen if martial law comes along? Oh, then they're going to, see, we were right. The fascists are moving in. They're goose-stepping their way through. It's almost the end. Crystal Night is coming. And then they get in a bigger frenzy and start, civil war? Did the establishment that won the last Civil War really want a second Civil War that they might lose? State rights, the first Civil War really smacked down state rights. They're not really got the same rights that they had before the Civil War. And there's all kinds of amendments added since that time. Tons and tons. Where it used to be a very slow process to amend the Constitution. And they set all kinds of things in motion to make sure that the establishment could stay in power. When I say the establishment, I mean, it doesn't matter if they call themselves Republicans or Democrats. They were the people with the money, the people with the power, and the people that were like this with certain corporations and banks, and always have been. And those people are still rich. They make 1% look like chump change. They don't have to pay attention to anything. They're in a surreal place all on their own. And the only time they pay attention to the rest of us plebes is when we're about to rock the boat and break that status quo they've had for all these years and generations. So, do they really want a second civil war? Will they really be satisfied? They say, see, look what Trump did. He was so divisive, he started a second civil war. Yeah, well, what if in the second civil war, the Trumpers win? Then what? Joke's on you, commie-educated snowflakes. Because who's going to be most likely to be armed people? Armed civilians. Heavily armed civilians. Right-wingers. What is a larger proportion of people likely to be in the military? Traditionalists, conservatives, right-wingers, and patriots. You've got some of them that went into the military because they had no place else to go. But for the most part, the military is not going to side with the rabble. The military is going to probably side with whoever is the constitutionalist, because that is what we used to raise our hand to. The president is our commander-in-chief, but the Constitution is the trump above that. So, I watch these silly people and these horrific rioters. I've already had my experience with rioters. And it doesn't matter if I admit it now, because nobody was hurt, nobody was killed, nothing was done. And I still stick to my story. They startled me when they hit my windshield with a huge rock. This was in Washington, and they were throwing rocks, big old rocks, down on traffic at minivans and any other car that was coming down that had a base sticker on it. So, Mom in her minivan with her kids is going to die in a car accident because these assholes don't like the Iraq War? What? And when that one turned around, I was just trying to go to Walmart, and that one turned around and threw a rock at me. Well, whoa! I lost my control of the wheel and went right onto the sidewalk. They had to clear away or jump off. Oh, wow. Because I was in a great, big, huge Suburban. Now, if I'd have been in a motorcycle, they could have killed me. These people, they've got no respect. They got no respect at all for what they're supposed to be espousing. And quite frankly, this year, I'm tired of it. And even if it's just talking to my doggone self on a flippin' YouTube channel, I still can't stay silent anymore. The majority has been silent long enough. No more of this crap. Our mistake was letting our kids get commie educated in the federal indoctrination system called school. I'm so glad that I put my kids into public school. Private school for the most part. That's a gift from my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law, she had married very well off, and she was generous with making sure that all of the family had those kind of opportunities. And I could never thank her enough. Bless her soul. So, I guess that's enough for today. I can't put my head around these crazy people that say they're Democrats and left, or I don't know what they are. They aren't progressive. They're regressive. And it's like a collective insanity. Mass hysteria. And it's dangerous. But the thing was, this is going to blow up in their faces. These are all going to be, you think they were crying when Trump won.